Please welcome Carmen Lynch.
Thank you. I'm 6 feet tall, so I'm not going to do a cartwheel. I'm just going to read this off my laptop because I'm on Team Books. And I was going to make a PowerPoint presentation. It would have never been that good, but I started to, and it felt like I was making a movie. So. Why are books better than movies? Well, it's all been said. I'm the last one in my group, but I'm going to give you the top 10 reasons why books are better. We'll start with a classic that you've heard already. Reading books does make you smarter. No one's ever said, oh my God, Susie is so smart. Well, you know Susie, she's always watching movies. Did you know that Warren Buffett spends 80% of his time reading books? 80%. Sure, he's like 112 years old and has nothing else to do but sit on his money and read. But he's very knowledgeable because he's read so many books. Do you know who spends 80% of their time watching movies? Harvey Weinstein. Only now he watches 100% of movies 100% of the time, because what else are you going to do in prison if no one wants to fuck you? Speaking of sex, book readers are better in bed. Now I have your attention. Good. Listen to this line from a romance novel. He traced his fingers up and down her spine as he caressed her face and pulled her hair and brought her in deeper. And when I read that, I can make myself come again and again and again. Oh, you thought I meant better sex with other people. Let's keep going. Don't worry, they're not all about sex. Okay, maybe a few more. Now we're going to talk about 50 Shades of Grey again. Lucky for you, twice in one night. Do you know how many people watched the movie 50 Shades of Grey? 10 to 15 million people. That's okay. Do you know how many copies of the book 50 Shades of Grey were sold? 100 million. And most of the people who saw the movie only saw it because they read the book. Did you know that romance novels make a huge profit? Romance novels let middle-aged women dream up their own fantasy because they're in a lifeless marriage. And you know what else they can do? They get to pretend they're the star of the romance novel, which brings me to number 8. When you read a book, you get to play the lead. Did you ever watch a movie and go, Uma Thurman isn't right for this part? You can't switch Uma. Uma is there permanently. You don't get to have an imagination in the movie. You have to have Uma's imagination. If I'm reading Romeo and Juliet, who do you think is playing Juliet? Me. Duh. Well, right up until she kills herself. And I get to pick my Romeo, which will probably be, there's a few, but let's just go with Pedro Pascal. If you don't know who that is, you're not even a reader of movie credits. Pedro's a hot Chilean American actor. I think he might be gay or bi in real life, but again, it's my fantasy, and it's all up here. And it's my Romeo and Juliet, so I get to decide, and he's straight and only has eyes for me. Books save marriages. They do. Books can save your marriage if you're reading Kama Sutra, 50 Shades of Grey, or Hallmark movies, which were all scripts before they were movies. Let me rephrase so you understand there would be no movies without reading. Number 7, people who read books are hot. They put on those tiny little glasses that sit on the top of their nose, and if you're single and you like each other, and you probably start talking about books, and you start a book club together, and one thing leads to another, which leads me to number 7, which is reading books could possibly get you pregnant. Okay, that's probably a stretch, but having a lot of books does make your living room look really attractive. And coming from a woman who's dated nerds, we love that. I was never impressed when I dated a guy who had a living room full of DVDs. Most of them didn't even have a living room. One of my favorite things about reading is that I don't have to do it with anyone. Kind of like stand-up comedy. You get to do it by yourself, which takes me to number 6. People who read are comfortable being alone. They're not codependent. They're not saying, oh, please, will you stay and watch a movie with me? Oh my God, stay, I don't want to watch it alone. That person doesn't need a movie. They need therapy. You never hear, I'm afraid of reading alone. Can we read together at the same time, but different books? Okay, I actually say that to my boyfriend, but books are just a great way to avoid people. When you watch movies, people always want to sit with you, and maybe they smell or chew loudly or scream whisper. Have you ever been in a movie where they scream whisper? Is that the same guy from the beginning with the briefcase? We're halfway there. Reason number 5, books keep the elderly alive. Books are as old as the elderly. And elderly people love the library because they don't know how to use devices. So we need to save libraries because it gives old people somewhere to go. And libraries are cheaper than putting them in a home. So books are saving your nana. Some books are called graphic novels. Graphic novels are sneaky, but because it sounds like you're reading an actual novel, but you're just reading a comic book. With movies, the only way to watch comic books / cartoons is in a crowded theater in a trench coat surrounded by children. Just ask my ex-boyfriend. He's an ex-boyfriend. Back to real books. Did you know there's a book called The Invisible Man about a scientist who discovers a way to make himself invisible? But there's also a book called Invisible Man, without the the. And that's an entirely different book. That book is about a black man's realization that the world refuses to see him as a real person. Well, I wanted to read the book about the scientist who turns himself invisible, but I bought the other book. And I just kept waiting for this nice black man to turn invisible. And he wouldn't, and he never did. What's my point? Books are full of surprises. Okay, now for number 4. Books make you learn stuff you didn't learn in public school. I didn't know for a while that Timbuktu was a real place. People use it as a joke. We were on that plane so long, I feel like we flew to Timbuktu. I didn't know the Underground Railroad wasn't actually a railroad until I read about it. Many years ago, but still. People who read are much better spellers because they're looking at the words directly in their face. Speaking of in their face, there has 3 ways to spell. There, and there. If you watch too many movies, you probably don't know, or you're just dyslexic. Like Liz. Okay. Summer reading is fun, like reading on the beach. What happens when the mosquitoes arrive? What are you going to do, swat them with The Hangover Part 3? You could just take them all out at once with one Bible. That's reason number 3, books kill people. I mean, bugs. Fuck. Books kill bugs. What the fuck? Okay, they kill bugs. This thing is getting lower and lower. I'm going to have to go like this. I don't know what's happening. Movies, but we're almost done. Movies these days are just more screen time. We've got iPhones, iPads, televisions, advertising screens on the subway platform. All of this screen time gives you headaches and bad vision. And reason number 2, movies are bad for your health. And finally, it's so quiet. It's well known in Hollywood that the worst books make the best movies. Look at Jaws. Great movie, terrible book. Mostly because it's a total drag to read 158 pages of da 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 da. Now the best books are usually, they make terrible movies. Why? Because movies are always trying to shove everything from the book into the movie. You may as well do cocaine. The Harry Potter books were great. The Harry Potter movies, 18 hours, I'll never get back. And I know what you're thinking, but Carmen, I'm too busy to read a book. But guess what? We're all busy. If you're watching foreign films with subtitles, guess what? You're already reading. Now, before I go, let's all hope and pray that those involved in any way with Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene are safe. And since most of them still don't have electricity and Wi-Fi to watch a movie, let's hope they find a nice big book to use as a flotation device. Thank you so much.